Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into some seriously mind-bending work by Dr. Joseph Peter Delaney called Make Your Field Your Shield. In this explainer, we're going to be looking at human development, but through a completely different lens than you might be used to. We're actually going to connect the massive, dynamic, cosmic forces of the universe to the very core of our own biology and psychology. It's going to be a wild ride.
So, can a literal solar flare actually trigger your personal transformation? I know, it sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But Dr. Delaney's work bridges this incredibly fascinating gap between massive astrophysical events and our own psychological evolution. We're exploring the idea today that human transformation isn't just some social or psychological process happening in a vacuum. It's actually a multi-layered phenomenon that's deeply shaped by our interaction with the cosmos itself.
Okay, let's dive right into this with part 1, Earth's electromagnetic environment.
To really get this, we have to start way up at the macrocosmic scale. And what's super fascinating here is how ancient cultural systems, like the Vedic models of cyclical change, are actually starting to perfectly align with modern astrophysics. To understand our connection to the Earth, we first have to understand the Schumann resonances. Think of these as the Earth's literal electromagnetic heartbeat. They're generated by lightning activity that gets trapped within the cavity between the Earth's surface and the upper atmosphere, which is known as the ionosphere. These resonances act as a highly measurable physical interface between the planet's vast electromagnetic dynamics and our own very sensitive biological systems.
And, it's not just the Earth acting alone here. Our environment is directly influenced by the sun. Variations in solar activity, things like solar flares, coronal mass ejections, and major shifts in solar plasma, they all have a profound impact on Earth's magnetosphere. So why does this matter to us? Well, it's because complex organisms, and humans especially, have neural and cardiac systems that are exquisitely sensitive to electromagnetic fields. Literally, when the cosmic environment shifts, we are biologically wired to feel it.
Which leads us to our next section, the science of the biofield. All right, let's zoom all the way in from the vast cosmic scale right down to the micro level. This right here is the absolute core of energy medicine's scientific foundation, the human biofield. It's essentially defined as an organizing field of energy and information that actually regulates our biological processes. We're talking about endogenous electromagnetic fields that are generated by our own bodies and biophoton emissions, which, if you don't know, are literally tiny particles of light emitted by our own cells. This provides a rock-solid scientific avenue for understanding how our bodies are managed by energy, not just chemistry.
Now, this brings us to a super interesting comparison. Think about the conventional anatomical model for a second. It basically views the body primarily as a biochemical machine, right? Nuts and bolts. But the integrative biofield model suggests something way more dynamic. In this model, traditional systems of energy, like meridians, nadis, and chakras, might actually be phenomenological maps of this complex energy regulation. They're basically ancient descriptions and early scientific observations of a highly advanced energetic anatomy that modern science is just now beginning to fully map out.
So you might be wondering, how does this energy actually travel through us? Well, that brings us to piezoelectricity, which is a really crucial scientific principle of energy medicine. Think about your body's fascia. That's the connective tissue holding everything inside you together. Fascia acts as a body-wide communication network. When it's placed under mechanical stress, like through movement or even just touch, it literally generates an electric charge and conducts vibrational information. Your physical structure is constantly generating and transmitting these energetic signals. Because we're basically walking, talking energetic antennae. Environmental electromagnetic shifts cause real, measurable physiological changes in us. Exposure can alter cellular signaling. It can shift our redox balance, which is essentially how our cells manage oxidative stress and energy. And it even changes the way water is structured within our tissues. Even our blood plasma acts as a medium to maintain systemic coherence across the whole body. There's even emerging research suggesting these electromagnetic conditions can directly influence stem cell behavior and cellular regeneration. It's incredible. All right, let's keep moving. Section 3, the biology of transformation. Now, what's really interesting here is how we transition from the purely physical to the meta level. This is where those physiological shifts in our cells and biofield actually begin to manifest as changes in our perception, our emotions, and our cognitive processing. Consider this concept from the famous psychologist Abraham Maslow. When we achieve coherence across our physical bodies and our minds, we move toward true self-actualization. And as Maslow recognized later in his work, peak human development eventually leads to self-transcendence. It's an experience that extends far beyond your individual ego, leading to a profound sense of unity, interconnectedness, and participation in a much larger cosmic whole. And taking that a step further,
William G. Spady actually operationalizes this whole idea brilliantly. He refines self-actualization into observable life performance outcomes. True biological and psychological transformation doesn't just make you feel good internally, it actively turns you into a purpose-driven learner. It results in generative contributions where you're actively giving back to society, to systems, and to the evolving whole. It's basically the ultimate payoff of this entire transformational process. Which brings us to our final section, your personal hero's journey. So how does this actually look in your day-to-day life? Let's reframe this entire biological and psychological evolution into something deeply relatable. Dr. Delaney's framework actually maps perfectly onto the 4 stages of the hero's journey, which is a concept famously articulated by mythologist Joseph Campbell. We've got the call to adventure, the trials, the purification, and finally, the return. We're going to walk through each of these steps right now to see how cosmic shifts and biological changes map directly onto these ancient mythological stages of growth.
Step 1 is the call to adventure. In biological and psychological terms, this is a profound disruption, triggered maybe by internal shifts or even those external environmental and cosmic changes we talked about. This disruption challenges your existing patterns of identity. It almost always manifests as a period of extreme disorientation and uncertainty. It's what depth psychology calls a confrontation with the shadow, or the dissolution of your previously stable ego structures.
Next up, we hit the trials. This is all about adaptation. From a biopsychosocial perspective, you are severely challenged here to regulate your autonomic nervous system dynamics and build coherence between your heart and neural rhythms. This is exactly why traditional systems have always emphasized practices like meditation, breath regulation, and contemplative movement. These practices are the exact toolkit you need to support this adaptation phase and really enhance your regulatory capacity across multiple levels of experience.
Then we reach stage 3, purification. Psychologically, you can think of this as the shedding of old identities, beliefs, and constraints that just don't serve you anymore. But biologically, this is intimately linked to the reality of cellular renewal, neuroplasticity, and epigenetic modulation, which means you are literally changing how your genes express themselves. Within the energy medicine framework we discussed earlier, it's the energetic clearing of codes that restrict your vital energy flow. The result? Incredible vitality and clarity. And finally, we arrive at the return. This is the culmination of the journey, representing true personal sovereignty. At this stage, your actions aren't driven by fear, deficiency, or the constant need for external validation anymore. Instead, you operate from a deeply rooted sense of inner coherence and purpose. You act with resilience, compassion, and a beautiful, authentic alignment with your most deeply held values. And this brilliantly illustrates how Dr. Delaney's entire multi-layered framework snaps together so seamlessly. At the macro cosmic level, we've got solar plasma and Schumann resonances driving the bus. Down at the micro biological level, this translates into real changes in our fascia, our redox balance, and our biofield. And finally, at the meta-psychological level, this manifests as our self-actualization and our very own hero's journey. It is all deeply, beautifully connected. So that leaves us with one final, pretty massive question. Because human development is cyclical and deeply responsive to the larger dynamics of the universe, as the cosmos literally shifts around us, sending ripples through the Earth's electromagnetic field and right into your very cells, are you ready to embrace the disruption? Are you ready to embark on your own biological hero's journey? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and definitely pay attention to the energy within and around you.